Sitka sicensis, Sitka spruce, it has one of the more ragged cones. So you can see that it kind of almost looks like a cob of corn that you've chewed on. It's kind of raggedy and it's very fragile. It's probably the most fragile cone out of all of them, and you know, it's very cylindrical. It's almost like a mini Norway cone, but much more ragged. And that's depicted on all the Sitka clothing that you've seen around. So that's the spruces for us here. So we'll just run through them quickly here. Sitka spruce, black spruce, small cone, white spruce. It's got the globular thumbnail-like cone scale. Then we've got Engelmann spruce, which is got a smallish cone with the cut-off tip. And then we've got Norway spruce with the biggest cone and the very clean looking cone scales. So now we're going to move on to abies. You can see that we've got a fairly good selection of abies because, well, they grow nicely on the coast. And we're going to start off with amabilis fir. I should have known that. Abies amabilis. So amabilis fir has got this mohawk, always described as a mohawk. It's 2 rows of needles pointing towards the terminal end. So, and all firs have the flat needles, and you know, the white on the bottom, and sometimes they have stomata on the top, lines of stomata on the top, which give these 2 lines on the top. But so Abies amabilis has this mohawk. That's how you can distinguish it from the foliage. With the cone, and all firs, I should mention, have deciduous cones, so that's why we have these bracts and scales that are just on their own. So it's got, I'll just draw it here. So it's got this bract that doesn't extend beyond the cone scale, and it looks like a slouching teenager, as it were. So this would be the cone scale up here. This is the bract, and it's kind of got this gentle sloping shape to it. So that's amabilis fir. So next up we've got balsam fir, Abies balsamea, and the foliage is kind of an intermediate between amabilis and grand. It can have a mohawk, but not as pronounced as the amabilis. The amabilis, the needles are almost perpendicular to the lateral needles. So with the balsam fir, it's got a little bit of this specimen's kind of a little rugged looking, but it's got this top ridge that's not nearly as defined as Abies amabilis. So it's got resinous cones. We don't have a cone here. We've got the scales here in this box. Can't get them out, but it'd be too small for you to see. So they've got kind of these pronounced shoulders that are squished up like, I don't know, it's almost like a vase actually. So let's draw it again here. So here's your cone scale, and it's got these kind of, it's not parallel there, but see how it slopes, kind of has like these really scraggly, maybe a tall, lanky guy with, you know, scrunched shoulders. So, oh, actually we do have a cone here. So yeah, so sorry, that's grand fir. That's why we have a cone. So it's got resinous cones. If you do see a cone, it has white resin on it. The foliage, as I said, in between grandis and amabilis. And yeah, so that's how you'll be able to identify it with the bract there. Moving on, we have Abies grandis, grand fir. And as you can see, grand fir has got, well, the most grand foliage. It's got the longest needles, the broadest needles, no mohawk. And it's also got cones that have a kind of a blunt tip to them. So if this was a cone, it would kind of have slightly blunt tip to it, like that. So that's branded. Let's see the cone scale here. Yeah, they have pointed shoulders as well. I don't think it's nearly as pointed as balsam, but pointed again, kind of pointed almost out. So we're going to draw grandas here. It's kind of, they're more pointed out. It's a subtle difference, but let's face it, it's the subtle differences that define these different trees. So Grandis fir, erase that. It's got the grand foliage, so it should be really distinct foliage for grand fir. You can see this cone isn't the greatest. I think this may be from a different specimen, but it should have a blunt top to it. Oh, and I should make a note here. A Mablis fir has got the bluntest point. So you can see our little, got a little drawing here because you can't get the full cone. So you can see that it's got a very blunt nose to it, almost like you smashed her in with a hammer. So that's grand fir.